أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. So inshallah, this is our second session for preparing for the topic of loneliness. Last week we studied it from the eighth word, which was discussing in Nadina in Allah Islam. We studied that verse in the light of loneliness. And today, the text we will study is 26th flash. This one is focusing on the initial verses of Surah Maryam. كافها يا عين صاد ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. So along these lines, the following verses, Zakaria alayhi salam is making a dua at his old age, saying that my hair became white and my bones are very weak, yet there has not been any dua, any supplication that I did, and you did not answer, you did not respond. And in general, this 26th flash, the author is talking about old age. And in old age, how he was, like, the feelings that he went through. And old age, really, the old age that he talks about is, for him, started somewhere around 30, 40. So more than half of us are hitting the bill here. So we are old. So he talks about his own experiences. And then how generally the pattern is, he first talk about what he went through, his feelings, his emotions, how the work was so dark, and then how remedies from Quran comes and saves him. So this is the general theme. And inshallah, we will read the 8th hope today. And I am looking for a volunteer to read. You do it?
I don't.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Last week, since we missed your voice, last week we heard Sister Sarah, now it's your turn. Let's read until the end of 8 hope. Generally, the text is not as intense compared to the previous text that we studied. So just read it at your own pace of understanding. So that should be, inshallah, an easy read.
The 26th flash, the treatise for the elderly. This flash.
We will read from the 8 hope.
8?
Oh. 8 or 6?
8. So it should be a few pages, maybe 4 or 5 pages later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
8th hope. At a time, gray hairs, the sign of old age, were appearing in my hair, the turmoil of the First World War, which made even heavier the deep sleep of youth, the upheaval of my captivity as a prisoner of war, the position of great fame and honor accorded to me on my return to Istanbul, and the kind treatment and attention far exceeding my due I received from everyone, from the Caliph, even Sheikh al-Islam, and Commander-in-Chief of the army to the students of religion. The intoxication of youth and the mental state produced by my position all made the sleep of youth so heavy that I quite simply saw the world as permanent and myself in a wonderful undying situation cemented to it. Then one day in Ramadan, I went to Bayezid Mosque to listen to the sincere Quran reciters. With their tongues, the Quran of miraculous exposition was proclaiming with its exalted heavenly address the decree of every living creature shall taste death, which powerfully gives news of man's death and that of all animate creatures. It entered my ear, penetrated to the depths of my heart, and established itself there. It shattered my profound sleep and heedlessness. I went out to the mosque because of the stupor of the sleep, which for a long time had settled in my head. For several days, a tempest raged in it. and I saw myself as a boat with smoking boilers and compass spinning. Every time I looked at my hair in the mirror, the gray hairs told me, "Take note of us." And so the situation became clear through the warnings of my gray hairs. I looked and saw that my youth, which was so captivated me with its pleasures, and in which I so trusted, was bidding me farewell, and that this worldly life, which I so loved and with which I was so involved, was beginning to be extinguished, and that the world, which was with which I was closely connected, and of which I was quite simply the lover, was saying to me, "Have a good journey," and was warning me that I would be leaving this guest house. It too was saying goodbye and was preparing to depart. The following meaning was unfolding in my heart from the indications of the Quran of miraculous expositions verse. Every living creature shall taste death. The human race is a living creature. It shall die in order to be resurrected. The globe of the earth is a living creature. It also will die in order to take on an eternal form. The world too is a living creature. It will die in order to assume the form of the hereafter. While in this state, I considered my situation. I saw that youth, which is the source of pleasure, and was departing, while old age, the source of sorrow, manifestation of his power, to the being which exists as knowledge, and with utter ease and facility gives it external existence. He displays and makes read the embroideries of his wisdom. If all things are not altogether attributed to that pre eternal, all powerful one, the one knowing of all things, then as well as having to gather together in a particular measure from most of the varieties of beings in the world, the body of the tiniest thing like a fly, the particles with which in that tiny fly's body will have to know the mysteries of the fly's creation and its perfect art in all its minutest details. For, as all the intelligent agree, natural causes and physical causes cannot create out of nothing, in which case, if they do create, they will gather the being together. And since they will gather it together, whatever animate being it is, there are within it samples of most of the elements and most of the varieties of beings. For living creatures are quite simply like a seed or essence of the universe. It will, of course, be necessary for them to gather together a seed from the whole tree and an animate being from the whole face of the earth, sifting them through a fine.
I think it's different in the book.
Yeah, it's like I cannot follow.
Very different.
Yeah. I don't know why you are reading.
Are you following this one?
Are you on the same, at what page are you on?
306.
296.
I started from 295.
He was there.
Yeah,
But then
And you just
Then you
Yeah.
somehow
Jump.
skipped or
Yeah.
added stuff.
I don't know.
Do you want to read from my phone?
could you go to 296?
okay, I will read it. While in this state, I considered my situation. I saw that youth, which is the source of pleasure, was departing, while old age, the source of sorrow, was approaching. That life, which is so shining and luminous, was taking its leave, while death, which is terrifying and apparently darkness, was preparing to arrive. And that the lovable world, which is thought to be permanent and is the beloved of the heedless, was hastening to its decease. In order to deceive myself and again plunge my heed into heedlessness, I considered the pleasure of the social standing I enjoyed in Istanbul, which was far higher than I deserved, but there was no advantage in it at all. All the regard, attention, and consolation of people could only accompany me as far as the looming door of the grave. There it would be extinguished. Since I saw it to be a tedious hypocrisy, called conceit and temporary stupefaction,
under the embellished veil of glory and renown, which is the illusory aim of those who chase fame. I understood that these things which had until then deceived me could provide me with no solace. There was no light to be found in them at all. I again started to listen to the reciters in Bayezid Mosque in order to hear the Quran's heavenly teaching and to awaken once more. From its sublime instruction, I heard good news through sacred decrees of the sword, and give glad tidings to those who believe. وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. With its effulgence, I sought consolation, hope, and light within the points at which I had felt horror, desolation, and despair, not outside them. Endless thanks be to Almighty God, I found the cure within the malady itself. I found the light within the darkness itself. I found the solace within the horror itself. Firstly, I looked in the face of that which is imagined to be most terrible and terrifies everyone. Through the light of Quran, I saw that although its veil is black, dark, and ugly, for believers its true face is luminous and beautiful. We have proved this truth decisively in many parts of Risale-i. For example, as we explained in the 8th word, we read 8th word last week, right? And the 20th letter, that is not an annihilation and separation, but the introduction to eternal life, its beginning. It is a it is a rest from the hardship of life's duties, a demobilization. It is a change of residence. It is to meet with the caravan of one's friends who have already migrated to the intermediate world. Intermediate world being Alem-i Barzakh, and so on. I saw that through beautiful face, true truths like these. I looked at that face not with fear, but with a sort of longing. I understood one meaning of the Sufi's contemplation of death. Then I considered my departed youth which makes everyone weep on its passing, which infatuates them and fills them with desire, causing them to pass it in sin and heedlessness. I saw that within its beautiful embroidered garb was an ugly, drunken, stupefied face. Had I not learned its true nature, it would have made me weep for 100 years if I remained in the world that long, instead of intoxicating and amusing me for a few years. Just as one such person said, lamenting, if only one day my youth would return, I would tell it of the woes old age has brought me. Indeed, elderly people like the above who do not know the true nature of youth think of their own youth and weep with regret and longing. But when youth belongs to believers with sound minds and hearts, it is a most powerful, agreeable, and pleasant means of securing good works and trade for the hereafter. So long as they spend it on worship and that trade and those good works. For those who know their religious duties and do not misspend their youth, it is a precious and delightful divine bounty. But when it is not spent in moderation, uprightness, and fear of God, it contains many dangers. It damages eternal happiness and the life of this world. In return for the pleasures of 1 or 2 years' youth, in old age it causes many years of grief and sorrow. Since for most people youth is harmful, we elderly people should thank God that we have been saved from its dangers and harm. Like everything else, the pleasures of youth depart. If they have been spent on worship and good works, the fruits of such a youth remain perpetually in their place and are the means of gaining youth in eternal life. Next, I considered the world with which most people are infatuated and to which they are addicted. Through the light of Quran, I saw that it has 3 faces, one within the other. The first looks to the divine names, it is a mirror to them. Its second face looks to the hereafter and is its tillage. Its third face looks to the worldly, it is the playground of the heedless. Moreover, everyone has his own vast world within this world. Simply there are worlds, one within the other to the number of human beings. The pillar of each person's private world is his own life. If his body gives away, his world collapses on his head, it is doomsday for him. Since the heedless and neglectful do not realize that their world will be so quickly destroyed, they suppose it to be permanent like the general world and worship it. I thought to myself, I too have a private world that will swiftly collapse and be demolished like the worlds of the other people. What value is there in this private world, this brief life of mine? Then through the light of the Quran, I saw that both myself and everyone else, this world is a temporary place of trade, a guest house which is every day filled and empty. A market set up on the road for the passers-by to shop in, an ever-renewed notebook of the pre-eternal inscriber, which is constantly written and erased, and every spring is a gilded letter, and every summer a well-composed ode, that it is formed of mirrors reflecting and renewing the manifestations of the all-glorious Maker's name. Is a seedbed of the hereafter, a flower bed of divine mercy, and a special temporary workshop for producing signboards which will be displayed in the world of eternity. I offered 100,000 thanks to the all-glorious Creator who had made the world in this way. And I understood that while love for the beautiful inner faces of the world which look to the hereafter and divine names had been given to mankind, since they spend it on its transient, ugly, harmful, heedless face, they manifested the meaning of the hadith, love of this world is the chief of all errors. Elderly people, I realize this truth through the light of all elderly people. I realize this truth through the light of all-wise Quran and the warnings of my old age and belief opening my eyes. And I have demonstrated it with decisive proofs in many places in Risale-i. I experienced a true solace, powerful hope, and shining light. I was thankful for my old age, and I was happy that my youth had gone. You too do not weep, but offer thanks. Since there is belief and truth is, since there is belief and the truth is thus, it should be the heedless who weep and misguided who lament.
Jazakallah khair. So, in this eighth hope, author was referring to, I think I need to give a little bit of a backstory as well. So, author lived during the time of First World War, and like he's a scholar, but he joins First World War as a voluntary warrior, and then he gets captive to the Russian, and then the Russian Revolution happens, and he escapes from Russia, comes back to Istanbul. So he comes back to Istanbul, and on his return, he is like celebrated by the people because now he was a well-known scholar before, but now he's even coming back as a warrior and who saved from captive. So commander-in-chief and the Khalifa back then, and everybody was giving him a lot of importance. So he says, but before eighth hope, he was mentioning some awakening that he experienced when he was in captive. He was kept in Russia. I says, when I come back to Istanbul, this glittering scene made me forget the awakening that I experienced. Because when he was in Russia, when he was captive, he realized again this white hair in the mirror. And he said, that's enough. I'm not going to get into the worldly life anymore. But he comes back to Istanbul, and now that he is being like highly venerated by people, because for 2-3 years, that shiny Istanbul life made me forget my conclusion that I had back in Russia when he was captive. But again, when he sees this white hair in the mirror, he again remembers that awakening, and then he looks at his own life and all the things that other people are admiring for. He sees that they're not going to follow him. He will leave them behind. So all the things that people are admiring will leave him alone eventually. So then he starts again having this awakening. So is everybody else crazy or am I crazy? What's going on here? So then he starts questioning all the things. And then this is the main theme of this text. Because none of the things that I see that people admire, you're working in this company, you have this title, you're so rich, you're coming from such and such family, like many of the things, all of them will stay. None of them comes with you. But even your body is not staying with you. You are dying, your body is starting to, because this building, initially it's so fresh, like as the newborn babies. But look at the old version of the building. Like it's falling apart. Like the white hair, knees are not as functional, muscles, like you start walking hard, you cannot lift, like for example, this old gentleman over there, he cannot lift his daughter because his back is not hurting. So even his body is not accompanying him anymore. Like everything is leaving him alone in this sense. And I was talking to brothers, sisters today. I said that age 30 is when the old age started saying hello to me for the first time. So do not postpone it to, like, don't wait to get as old as him to wake up to that realization. But age 30 was the first time I genuinely started feeling this text. Up until that time, it was a nice literature. I mean, maybe I was just speaking as if I'm old and whatnot, but for the first time, 30 was shaking. So then there is hope in that, because the author is naming these chapters as hope. Because it's really a hopeless situation. Day by day, like imagine you have you did all your investment into Bitcoin and Bitcoin is melting day by day. How would you feel? Like it's just the prices are going down. This is how you are. Like you make all your investment to this body when you were a child, and every new day is just taking something away from that body. It looks like it's a hopeless situation because nobody is going the other way around. Everybody's getting old. Or let's say you're trying to get the degree, earn money and whatnot, and you're already age 40 when you are able to afford something, but nothing is tasting as good before as it used to be because you're already too old. Like the joys are not as joyful. You cannot taste that much anymore. So it's really a very dark situation. There is hope in here. This is what the author is questioning here. This is everybody's reality. This is the route that we are going towards. We leave things behind. None of the friends, including my own body, keeps being my friend on that journey. Everything is being left behind. Nobody stays with you. And that's why they say you enter the grave by yourself. So nothing is going to stay with you. Your children, your spouse, nobody. Your degree, your title, your wealth, nothing. Where is hope in there? And this is everybody's situation. And even a few weeks ago, we were discussing that. So there used to be this very ugly video recordings of Bosnian War. Then I guess the Serbians were capturing some Bosnians, and at the point of gun, they are asking the father to dig a grave, and then they shut their son in front of him and make him bury the son. So it's such a ugly, hateful thing to observe, right? You are killing like your son, you dig the grave of your son, and they hit your son in front of your eyes and force you to bury your own son. But isn't this how life is? Like, in your eyes, your creator kills your father, and then you dig your father's grave. Your creator says, go and bury him. You bury your father. What are you doing? What sort of a, like, this is everybody. Everybody is going through that. And it looks so dark. So there is hope in that. And everybody is going through this. And there was an important emphasis here. The author was saying that the remedy is within melody. The problem itself, he is not looking for solution elsewhere. The solution is within the problem itself. I consider it as a problem because of my incorrect perspective. And let's try to fix that perspective. So this is, I think, a general theme of the text. And inshallah, from there on, let's discuss. Any points that attracted your attention?
My question, how you, how do you connect it with your topic, the loneliness? Because that's the idea.
Well, in general, this 26th flesh is about old age, and 8, 9, 10. The main hope we covered here was 13th hope for the purpose of loneliness, but I just extended it to 8. So, and the idea is death, old age, is leaving you alone from all the things that you were hoping to stay with you, but nothing stays with you.
So how Kadir will apply?
So
He's young, he's restless.
yeah, Qadir is
Strong, handsome.
Yeah, Kadir with all his muscles that he's trying to build up. So he can look at Birkan, who used to have muscles when he was young. Like Birkan's muscles is not with Birkan anymore. Like they are not accompanying him, not even to that age. Forget about grave. So it does not stay with you. So because these are the things that we trust the most, right? My body, my intellect, or I'm a tough person, let's say. Like my grandfather was a very tough person. But when he came to 80s, he was just looking for an excuse to cry. Like even the toughness doesn't stay with you. Like those emotions that define you, you feel like this is who I am. Even those emotions do not stay with you. Like forget about any other person who is going to be my friends in that journey. Because you want to rely on something. You want to, this is why people are joining, let's say, some social circles. Human is in need of befriending someone. Forget about friends. Not even your body stays with you. Not even your feelings stay with you. Human is existentially so lonely if you think about it. But life shouldn't be that dark. Like things, like birds are singing, they're having a lot of fun. Cats are enjoying their life. Sunshine is beautiful, wind is beautiful, rain is beautiful, clouds beautiful. But human is so miserable. So there is hope for human here. Are we really doomed to be that lonely in this life, in this existence? I mean, as they say, really, there's no life after college. Are they right about that? Like we should party hard, and then after 22, you are doomed. But for 4 years of joy, like it's the price that we pay is too large. Maybe mindlessly you are getting a questionable joy for a few years here and there. But then even the joy itself is not staying with you. The joy that you have is with you for a few minutes, a few seconds, let's say a few, I don't know, hours at most. Even the joy abandons you. So this is why human is existentially lonely by the fact that we are aging, we are getting old, and nothing stays with us. Not only humans, but even the things, the very things that define us, do not stay with us.
mean you are not alone right now because you have, let's say, a healthy body, but you will be alone one day? Is it what you mean?
So things are like what I consider as healthy body right now. It was healthier 5 years ago. Like even what I say as me, healthy me, which defines me, is not staying with me. As if I am in this machinery, this car, consider my body as a car, but even the car is falling apart, and I'm going to a destination with this car, and friends and whatever, they're already leaving me. But even the car that I drive is falling apart. The very thing that I would consider as me is falling apart. It's not even staying with me. It looks like by the time I arrive to the grave, and then this will totally fall apart, and then will throw me inside that grave, and that would be it. But it sounds so, it's better not to think. It's so dark, it's better not to think. As if not thinking is a cure, but heedlessness, how do they say, there's a word about this, ignorance is bliss. It looks like ignorance is the only way out of this, but you know that ignorance is just a fool's way of hiding up things. So how can I get out of this problem? What does the maker of this body, the one who put me in this condition, what does he tell about this? Is it, am I doomed, or there is a solution? And actually, maybe the main point is to exactly me feeling that, so that I ask, how am I going to get out of this? And then the remedy will come.
So, I have a question about these lines. So, in here, the author says, I understood that these things which had until then deceived me could provide me with no solace, and there was no light to be found in all of them. So, this is my first question. My question is that, like, when you experience something, shouldn't it be a way to know your creator or something like that? But in this lines, if I feel like it's like these kind of experiences, like for example, if someone praises me or anything like that, those kind of experiences, like they're not helpful to me at all. So what should I do with those kind of feelings? Like if someone has those kind of experiences even, so how should one deal with those? And the second question is about youth. Like,
So let me first understand the first question. So somebody comes and says, oh, Qadir, you have very strong muscles, right? And you're saying, what am I going to do with that? Okay.
or anything else. Yeah. 296. It's above the ayah 225. And then the second question is about like youth, like, and here it's being portrayed like youth is very dangerous. Or like, for example, even if it says like, for example, some people would say, okay, let me skip just 2 years of this, like enjoy, and then like I will be doing all of the praying and everything. So what is so important about youth that the author is asking us to like not waste our youth?
Not
Be wasteful with our youth. So like if one is going to take an average, one would say like I would live 70 years, so let me enjoy it till my 30s and then I can start praying. So what is so important about being good in your youth?
You can double the speed and then cover up what you were missing. Makes sense. Yes, you heard the questions, folks. The first question is about the muscles. And somebody is praising you, or let's in order not to focus on muscles too much, so let's go back to what the author was saying. So he says, in order to deceive myself and again plunge my head into heedlessness, I considered the pleasures of social standing I enjoyed in Istanbul, which was far higher than I deserved, but there was no advantage in it at all. All the regard, attention, and consolation of people could only accompany me as far as the looming door of the grave. There it would be extinguished. Since I saw it to be a tedious hypocrisy, cold conceit, and temporary stupefaction under the embellished veil of glory and renown, which is the illusory aim of those who chase fame, I understood that these things which had until then deceived me could provide me with no solace. There was no light to be found in them at all. That's the text, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what shall author do in this case, or what did he do in this case, right? Any comments? My understanding here is author is initially, as it is the case with us or with people like me, I do enjoy being praised. I do enjoy people saying that, oh, you're so good, such and whatnot. So, but then going and questioning this joy itself, what is it that I am joyful about? And I found it to be that, oh, people think I am a good person, I am a worthy person. What is this truth? Like if I come and say in this gathering, if I say, oh, Muhammad Sial, you are the Albert Einstein in this room. like, you know, you are not Einstein, but let's say, relatively speaking, if you are the smartest in this room, you might enjoy the moment and say that, yes, I am the Einstein. Because it happens, right? So, especially children. Yesterday we were in a gathering and children were fighting with each other. And the strongest one was enjoying the moment of being the strongest in the room, right? So, relatively speaking, I know that I'm not the strongest or anything, but in the room, since nobody's stronger than me, nobody's smarter than me, and whatever, if they say you are the Einstein, I enjoy the moment, although I know that it's not true. So if somebody comes and glorifies me, the joy that I have, if it is based on this unreal source, I know that it's a lie. And yes, at best, people will keep flattering me, but it has no basis because that intellect do not belong to me, and it's going to be taken away from me as I step into the grave. Who cares? It has no reality. It was a lie that I lived with. Sooner or later, it's going to be taken away from me. It's like those people. There was a few cases in Wall Street as well. The guy is running a hedge fund and he just advertises falsely how good the fund is doing. So he keeps collecting money and he keeps wasting money behind the scenes. But eventually, before he died, he was caught. And then he put him into prison for however many life prisons because he deceived people and so much money. I forgot the name of the guy. What's it? Madoff might be, yeah. Sounds. So what is it? The guy was hoping to save the day until somewhere, but he was living in a lie. He knew that he was living in a lie and just hoping that he can postpone when it will be realized. This is becoming my reality. I'm living in a lie. People are flattering me. I know that what people see valuable in me do not belong to me. Because even my health, if I get sick, tomorrow I will not be able to lift this hand, forget about doing anything more than that. Knowing that I don't own any of these, so I keep pushing it until the time that somebody will realize it. So living in a lie, what's its benefit? So I think author in here is saying that, well, I had this wrong feeling of joy, which was actually living in a bubble of lies. Then let me face my reality. Am I worthy of any of those flatterings first? Knowing that I am not, then is there a benefit of these flatterings to me? Even if I am the worst of the world, a billion person comes and says you are a good person. Does it change the fact that who I am? So knowing who I am, others' testimony doesn't help me. So author is using this problem to his benefit, actually, saying that, yes, I was wrong. So let me turn my face away from that. And I already forgot the second question. Who else wants to answer the second question?
I think that reminds me of how when we were reading about Salah, it said something like, like your prayer is not as good as a saint's prayer, but that does not mean you should not pray because it does share in that same light. And it made me think of like of course, like when you're close to dying, like it's gonna, like you're gonna get punished. So that's most likely your motivation to worship Allah, that like I'm gonna die, like I want to go to Jannah. But when you're young, you don't really see that like ending line. So I think your worship is, and I think there's a hadith too, I don't know, that like the worship of youth is better. And I think it's because like you don't realize that that reality of death isn't very tangible for you at that age. So at that point, you're doing it I think your motivation is different. I think it's to get closer to Allah, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know, maybe you guys can answer this better, but I think like as you grow older, maybe also you are less tempted to like pursue sins. I'm not sure. I don't know. Burkan. Burkan, are you less tempted?
Are you referring to me? I have also white hair.
So, am I less what?
Like, are the temptations of the worldly life lesser for you at this age compared to when you were younger?
Even greater.
I will assume you to.
Okay. Any other older people? I don't know. That's what I understood from what Nursi was saying, because over here, I think towards the end he talked about how give me a second. Like when you're younger, you are more likely to mess up. So that's what I understood from it, but I might be wrong. No offense to anyone.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. So, yes, he was referring to the young people as well. Oh, yes, Abdurrahman is going to say something. We are listening to you, Abdurrahman.
Sorry to disappoint. This is not Abdurrahman. But I was thinking about Qadir's second question, which, if I remember correctly, he was saying, you know, if someone thinks, okay, like I might live up to 70, so why does it matter if I spend 2 years of my youth doing whatever I want, or up to 30 years old and whatnot? And I guess here, this notion of separation, right, and in part loneliness that becomes more obvious as one ages, perhaps, right? You know, their children grow up, their social circle might be less, slowly all their friends are dying, etc. But that sort of separation, as was alluded by Brother Yusuf earlier, it's with me at every stage of my life, really, right? When someone turns 21, they can't grasp or hold on to their 19, 20-year-old, 16, 10-year-old self, right? Even their childhood. When you first enter your teens, there's this loss of childhood that one feels very strongly of, oh, like, I won't be a child anymore. So that loss is constant, regardless of my age. And I guess because of that, regardless of whatever age I'm at, I need a solution. I need a sort of point of refuge for the feelings that come with that constant separation as well. You know, it becomes less of a, okay, I'll do the religious stuff later when I'm older, but more so of, I have a need that I am, that has kind of taken hold of me right now, and I'm grieved by it. So how do I resolve it? In what do I find consolation? And I think some, you know, any one of us, myself included, like we seek that consolation of being separated from our own selves, our own pasts, at every stage of our lives. Jazakumullah khair.
Comes to youth, I mean, I don't have to look to Burkan. I can think about my past, you know. So there were a lot of students at my high school who were, you know, like not doing very good things, very upright things. And it is because of that separation from death. And as you get older, like you're going to be surrounded by more people who are, like praying, or, like you will see more gatherings where people are remembering Allah. And it is harder to do that in youth because you are surrounded by everyone who doesn't want to do those things. So I think that also ties back to our topic on loneliness, because when everyone around you is, like partying, or, like not thinking about God, or just thinking about like what foods to have or where to go for the next vacation, like it takes effort to be like, hey, I want to do this thing that's different, because that does mean being lonely or separating yourself from those friends or those people. So to opt for that loneliness, it is difficult because you do have that need for closeness with other people. So I think that's why that practice is more elevated, that worship is more elevated.
So one of the things that you can give zakat to is like if there are two poor people, but one of them is a person who was rich and then became poor, you can give zakat to that person rather than a poor person who used to be poor, because that person is in more of an agony than the poor person who used to be poor. So rich turned poor is a poorer condition, because that person is experiencing a much intense pain, much intense lacking, because that person is lacking many more things than the other poor person. A regular poor person is in need of bread, let's say, but a rich person get used to or get addicted to a certain level of life and is now even deprived of that one relative to the poor. So if I live a reckless youth life, then I am introducing many joys to myself, which I will get deprived of in my future life. Like, let's think about a person who lives a heedless life until the end. Still, that person would be sorrowful about the youth that he lived, because many joys he experienced in his youth, and now he cannot. Because it sometimes happens that a friend comes and goes, and you love the friend so much, and you say, if only I have never met that friend. Because now the lack of the friend is burning you so much. And this happens with, may Allah protect, but if a person's young child dies, the person would say that if only the child has never born. Because now that we knew the child, we lived with the child for 2 years, and now the child is gone, it's burning so bad. So apply this to youth. Because any joy you lived in your youth, it's gone. You cannot replicate it because you're not young anymore, you're not strong anymore. But you're longing for it, you're desiring it, but unfortunately it's long gone. Joy stayed with you for a few years, but separation from joy will stay with you 30, 40, 50 years. And you might have seen people whose children passed away. Actually, a few weeks ago, Brother Birkan's mother-in-law was here. So she had young children died. I didn't listen to the story from her, but Maryam was telling. So even after 40, 50 years passed, still when she talks about those old days, in a very sorrowful way, she is talking about this beautiful son who passed away around age 5. So that is how a heedless youth is going to leave deep scars in you. Of course, if you are a believer, then you are, on top of that, you are saying that I wasted a good opportunity. This is additional. But even if you live a heedless life to the very end, you're going to be sorrowful for the beautiful, joyful youth that you lived through, because it's going to leave you in sorrow forever.
Okay, so I was thinking about the question that he asked about, like, what's the big deal if I enjoy my 20s or start doing what I'm supposed to do at my 30s? And I think it's a relevant question because very often I'm hearing people talk about extended adolescence. So people these days living in their 20s as an extended adolescence, they're behaving like teenagers until they're 29. And so, and I do think it's problematic, and not just in terms of your material life, but also your spirit life. So with reference to the text, I think the reason why youth is so risky is because you're more easily distracted. And so you wind up squandering your life. And so every stage of life is super important. Every stage, whether you're a teenager or in your 70s. And the point is not to squander any of it, not one moment of it. But the problem with youth is the distractions. And now more than ever in modern life, there are endless distractions. And so that's how I feel why youth is problematic, just because it's so easy. You're so easily just fall in love with the world around you. And modernity offers endless attractions. So that's one thing. And then I also think what happens is if you spend your 20s acting like a teenager, you start your 30s like mentally, emotionally, even in terms of your life, your tangibles, your career, your profession, your family life, you start off a full decade behind. And so many people are living like this now. And so, you're not prepared for your 30s. And at a material level, you're competing with people who did not do that. So you become exponentially left behind. Of course, that's still material and physical, but I think the soul undergoes the same stunting where spiritually, you've squandered a decade. So your spirit went from its baby phase to its adolescent stage and got stuck there. And, and it's such a terrible thing. So then in your 70s, if you're finally having these realizations, like it's very late, like you could regret, oh, where would I have been? What could have I accomplished if I actually paid attention to the Quranic worldview when I was in my 20s? And what could I have done with it? Who could I have told it about? So I don't think youth is more valuable than old age. But if you truly have the correct worldview, why would you squander a minute of it? This is how I feel. This. You want to turn it off?
Jazakallah khair. Is this good, Qadir, with your muscles? Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.
I have one question. I'm just new here.
Isn't the explanation for Quran, or is this another book for another author? I'm not sure.
Yes, so we should have get that introduction. So the author, so this is Said Nursi's writings about, it's a commentary of Quran, but he is not going verse by verse. He is studying it thematically, like within a theme. So for the text that we are now studying, as I was referring to at the beginning of Surah Maryam, Zakaria alayhi salam makes this supplication in his old age. And now author is saying that in my old age, I went through these realizations about my life, how heedlessly I was just deceiving myself with the beauty of world and whatnot. But now the old age is coming. So how come Quran is offering some solace, some giving me hope and making my life meaningful rather than just getting into dust? That's why here he is referring to the verses in between. So it's not like, again, one by one, verse by verse, but he was referring to the verses and give glad tidings to those who believe. So for example, what sort of a glad tidings? That belief gives me from this problem, the trouble that I am in. Because believer is getting old and dying, non-believer is getting old and dying. They are getting into the same grave. So what sort of a good news is there for the believer, as Quran is claiming? That's why he said, how about death? Let's look at death. Is it really death? Is it killing me? Or is it just transforming me to another life? So looking at death from a Quranic lens, looking at youth and old age from a Quranic lens. So this is in general how the author is studied. So although I mentioned, I just want to re-emphasize one word, if I can find it. Okay, yes, this after the verse 225, and give glad tidings to those who believe. The phrase the author uses in here is important to me. Says, with its effulgence, I sought consolation, hope, and light within the points at which I had felt error, desolation, and despair, not outside them. Endless thanks be to Almighty God, I found the cure within the melody itself. I found the light within the darkness itself. I found the solace within the horror itself. Let me give an example what's happening here. We were talking with Garar today. So he was mentioning a friend of his who felt very alienated and lonely within a family group. And he goes to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist suggests, well, why don't you change your friend environment? Go and find yourself another group of friends. And that friend was later telling to Farah, saying that I found myself lonely in this new group of friends too. So he has a problem with a certain group, but the solution is being expected to be found elsewhere. But author in here is saying that if I am made to face a problem, let me find the solution within the problem, because if my creator is making me live through or getting me some pain from that situation, then that means there's something I'm supposed to learn from that very point itself. So my cure also lies in there. So he rather focuses on the problem itself and says, what does my creator teach me by making me go through this pain of, let's say, loneliness within that friend group? Maybe there is something in my perspective that's missing, and I'm supposed to learn it from here. So let me focus on here. So that's why I sought consolation, hope, and light within the points at which I had felt horror, desolation, and despair, not outside them. So that's an important issue. If I am feeling problems with me getting old, I should ask the question, why am I feeling sorry for getting old? Why was I happy in the first place when I was feeling young and strong? Maybe the problem is itself there, because I thought I was strong. The strength belonged to me. And now I am waking up from that unrealistic dream. As it is being taken away from me, if it was mine, I wouldn't let it go. That means it was given to me, and the one who gave it to me is taking it away from me. So it's a wake-up call. Actually, it's good then that I am getting old, because the one who gave it to me realized that I am being that spoiled child, and now he is taking it away from me so that I learned something. So actually, this old age or things being taken away from me is my remedy. My disease was thinking that it's mine. And by taking it away, and in this case, it's the name of it is being old age. Old age is my remedy. It is curing me. That's why he is at the end is saying that all thanks to Allah for my old age. I am thankful for my old age because it cured some problems within me. And I guess we can generalize this to any problem that I go in life. Rather than complaining about the problem itself, I should say, since I consider it as a problem, what is wrong with me? Let me see, what does my creator tell me about that? Yes, any other comments, any other questions?
I could play devil's advocate.
Okay.
So I could have two questions potentially. If because the author is saying that he found his cure within thinking that every soul has to taste death. So if I know that I'm going to die, like, can it be a reason for me to hold even more tightly to my friends that I have, because I'm thinking, oh, like, this life is going to end anyway. So, like, I have this right now. Allah has given me this right now. Let me make the most of it. And I think we do see that attitude in our countries where it's like Allah has given you money. So, of course, you have to have lavish weddings. Of course, you have to have a big house. Alhamdulillah, God gave it to you, right? So it's like, God gave me friends. So I'm going to spend all my time with them. Can we have that attitude? And the second is, could we perhaps have a best of both worlds attitude, like a bit of this, a bit of that? Like, is there supposed to be a balance, or should I have the attitude of, oh, like, it's all for God, like all my friendships are meant to die anyway, so let me just cut them off? Like, where's that sweet spot?
So I'm thinking also trying to make the connection with still loneliness.
You don't have to. Relax. Let's try to benefit.
So thinking, I'm thinking, sorry.
Okay,
fine.
First of all, I think what the author found solace and relief in the ayah which says وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, which says here, and give glad tidings to those who believe. And then he wanted to kind of dive more. What does it mean? Bashir الَّذِينَ, like, give glad tidings. And you mentioned about like the friends, and I feel so here when he talked about death and remembered what death is, he said like, this is you're being transported from this life to an eternal life. It's supposed to be a better life. It's supposed to be where you meet your beloved ones. And I think we talk about this when, like, usually people believe, I guess, that like if you're gonna end up in heaven and like you have like good friends or so that were good enough to go to heaven, you're supposed to meet in heaven, right? Or like there's a couple in this life that are have like the good deeds, went on the right path. They are supposed to be a couple in heaven too. So I think the idea of wanting to be with your friends forever should actually push you towards like being a better person, spiritually with them, so that you all end up together in heaven. I mean, I think, because if you think about it, like whatever you do, you will never stay with your friends, not even because of death, because of life itself. Like you would never stay with your high school friends. If you stayed in contact, you'd be so lucky. You would never stay with your, college friends, because you will move to different lives, different paths. So I think the only way is to actually pray that you guys will meet again in heaven, whether it's friends even, or like family member or someone like that. I don't know. That's how I look at it. That's like the bushra. That's like the glad tidings that the author talks about.
So like if you are going to die and if you have limited time and you have limited resources, then the best thing you can do is spend much of it with the things you enjoy, regardless of whoever says whatever to you. That's the best thing you can do for sure. Even if you call yourself as religious believer, again, if you have a limited time, if you have limited resources, no matter what these people tell you, the best thing you can do is just live your life to the extent you say that, okay, I did it. And so the ayah here, the Bashiran, the glad tidings, right? So it's not like somebody is trying, the author is trying to lose himself in the social life, and then he had a smack. He says, no, I was feeling bad for some reason, but then I realized that it's a good news. So in your life, you think that you have limited time and limited resources. This is what you think. This is what people tell you and what you believe. Again, even if you call yourself as a Muslim, most of us think that we have limited time and limited resources. And then this idea hurts us. So then we try to, get drunken with the social life or whatever resources we have, limited. And only if somebody comes and tells you, but do you know what? You don't have limited time. Mm-hmm. And you don't have limited resources. Mm-hmm. So you have very long time and you have infinite resources. Only if I tell you that, then you start thinking, oh, maybe I should, rethink about what I'm doing here. Maybe then you say that, okay, I will now question whether whatever I'm doing makes sense or not. So there must be a glad tidings. Again, otherwise, if there are no such glad tidings, I think the best thing you can do is, yes, live your life. But there's also another part of it. When you try to live your life, you still have these, the feelings that doesn't leave you alone. Like you try to live your life, you try to lose yourself within your friend circle and get the best job or get the best house. But there's still something in you that doesn't leave you alone, keep bothering you. So then you ask, like, what's going on? Right? What is feeling telling me? Or like if you are stupid enough, like most of us, you would say, oh, maybe this feeling is not healthy, so I should, get rid of it. You either try some meditations, other, the tactics, take some medicine and so on. People would say, oh, you shouldn't feel guilty because you have this luxury and so on. You will try to, handle these feelings. But author says, if you listen carefully, these feelings that bothers you actually is trying to tell you something. So always the first step is, as we, say the same thing again and again every time, but the realizing that everything about you, including this feeling, is also created in you. So you don't have control over these feelings. Otherwise, you would just say, oh, do you know what? I'm turning off the switch and the feeling will go away. But it doesn't work that way. So it is created in you. So you ask the question, what are you telling me? And then it starts giving you the glad tidings, this feeling bothering you itself. So author Vance, it says, I found the solution within the problem itself. This is what he is referring to. He says there was something bothering me, and I looked carefully why it was bothering me, what is it is that is bothering me. And then he says, oh, I realized that it was telling me something, that you were not sent this world to have some fun. So if you try to do that, because you are not created for that, you will not find it, the pleasant, because it will not satisfy you. This is not your fitra. You are given this heart, which all the pleasure in this world cannot feel. So you will always feel empty. This feeling will tell you, no matter how many friends I have, I still feel lonely. No matter how many houses I buy, I still feel, not satisfied. I mean, look at me, how beautiful I am, but still it's not enough, he says. Right? So this feeling tells you that, there must be something else then that will fill this gap. And then it tells you about this, the true, the object of worship that will fill this gap. And this feeling itself, this bothering, the feeling itself will lead you to this truth. Without this bothering, you wouldn't even search for it. So anyway, at the end, I have to make all these jumps, but at the end, you realize that you've been created so that you can, enjoy the beauty of the Creator, and it starts filling up your heart, and it will start satisfying you. And then you will realize that you have all these infinite resources given to you from your Creator. And that's the only thing that can satisfy you. So you shouldn't even waste your time with, buying more houses or finding more friends and so on, because you already know that these will not satisfy me anymore anyway. And I know that what will satisfy me. So again, if you go back, if you didn't have this solution, that this infinite love of my Creator will satisfy me, the infinite resource. If you didn't have this, the best thing you could do, again, try this, find it, the pleasures, and they will hurt you. That's the best thing you can do. But because this feeling tells you that, wait a second, Dua, you are mistaken. There is infinite resource there. Go there. Now you will find your solution there.
Dua, your question was about like friendship as well, like how to maintain that.
If you should maintain that, like what should you do? Should you just cut everyone off? If that's not the solution, where to find balance?
So I don't know if it is related, but I think this is related from the fourth ray. So here the author says, also through that insight of belief, connection, relation, bond, and brotherhood, I felt and experienced in myself an infinite happiness at the happiness of all my friends, for whose happiness I would willingly sacrifice my life and immortality. For one kind friend is happy and pleased at the happiness of his sincere friend. I therefore felt and perceived through the insight of belief that through the eternal existence of the enduring one of perfection, foremost the noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him and his family and companions and all my masters and those I love, the prophets, saints, and purified scholars, and all other innumerable friends had been saved from eternal extinction and would experience eternal happiness. I understood through the mystery of relations, bonds, brotherhood, and friendship that their happiness was reflected in me and made me happy. So this is how like I can relate, like all of those experiences, they are here to teach me all of those things, and I don't need to like worry about what I can do, because like all of them have their own creator, and everyone like you. This is what I understand from this. So it's from the fourth ray. We are studying it for our presentation.
I think we are running to the end of the time. Jesse, just to partially answer.
One comment for the friend. Actually.
Okay,
We are
just
not following the book. Maybe we can choose the friend.
okay, just a sec. Microphone.
Sorry. So I didn't read the book, like, but I have a comment for friend. If we have 10 friends and 6 of them are good, but 4 of them are not good, we can go for 6. Why are we not going for 4 of them? So that we can end with a good behavior, good deeds, and so that we can go to Jannah. So like making 10 friends which are not good for you is not a good habit. But making 6 of them which are good and good for you and for your family is a better option. This is my opinion.
Jazakallah khair. And I mean, this might be too idealistic, or I don't know in practice if whether we would do this or not. But if, like, imagine a mother or a family having kids, and then a 2-year-old child dies, a second kid having 2-year-old child dies, third kid having 2-year-old child dies, and they are living through the joy of 2 nice years of child, and then the agony of separation of that beautiful child. Another unique child, 2 years beautiful. Would they have the 4th child if they are guaranteed that the child is going to die at age 2 again? They wouldn't like to go through that pain again. Yes, it is fun for 2 years, but the separation from that child is so painful. And they would say, I don't want to take this 2 years of joy, for we will get separated from them as long as we live. But in practice, we don't live like this, to be honest. Yes, we are making friends, and then we are getting upset with those friends, and then we just find something new. Let's say, oh, I started playing polo, or I'm going to gym. Like if polo starts getting boring, then I go to gym. And then the gym starts getting boring. I say, well, let me try my chance in academia. I'm going to become a professor. Then you realize that it sucks too. Then you say, well, let me form a family and have. So this is what we are doing, jumping from here to there. Same thing is happening actually, but when do we realize this? Since every single one of them takes 2 to 5 years to realize that it also sucks, we get to age 50, 55. Now the kids that you grown up is not looking at your face. Your friends are already gone. And you are now, then you're saying, oh, now I understand what my mom was talking about, right? So this becomes our reality. But if you would like to see it on a toy example, I guess this 2 year dying children gives the perfect sense of what's going through. This is why if the eternal truth of any experience is not lived, you better not even taste that joy, because it brings more pain. Any joy brings more joy than pain if I don't see the eternally beautiful aspect of it. But I can say, well, let me just change it and try to forget about it. This is how it will happen, right? So if family's child dies and whatnot, the family is in this agony, what would the neighbors try to do? They will just try to divert their attention to something else, right? And people forget. We do forget. But this doesn't mean that it's not hurting. So this is why, other than La ilaha illallah, there is no real solution to that problem. But La ilaha illallah, because of both La ilaha illallah and then the resurrection and eternal life, it truly solves the problem itself. Otherwise, I am bound to live in the agony. And even if a person is an unbeliever and whatnot, for lesser of a pain, it would be more justifiable and a smarter move not to get into any joys, so that there's going to be lesser pain. But we don't do that. Why? Because as humans, we are fond of immediate joy. And then I can jump onto an alternative joy, So in this way, I'm trying to deceive myself constantly. And to a certain extent, we can do that. But there comes an age after which you cannot even do that, because now everything starts shouting at you that death is near, death is near. So I guess we are not at that age yet, Brother Birkan, are we? So this is why still I feel like I can jump from here to there, there to here, and then just increase my portfolio of joys. But I don't know, even the most famous, most wealthiest people are committing suicide. And we call them crazy, or we say, and like, to me, it sounds like committing suicide would be the most sane thing an unbeliever would do, if we are talking about a sane choice. Because as I keep staying in here, it's giving nothing but more pain to me. What's the point of elongating my pain? It is as if you are in the death row, but also at every stage that take you to this death sentence, they are torturing you. You would just say that, finish it as quick as possible. Don't, like, why am I waiting the whole way, right? So this is our reality, but humans, we do deceive ourselves. So this is why maybe that perfect theoretical framework might not be sounding too plausible. But if you think about it, if one says, let me wake up from that, actually, yes, there's no point of even tasting any joy. And at some point, Nursi says that no matter at what side you are, believer, unbeliever, in any case, avoiding joys is the best for you. Because of this reasoning. But if you are the believer that is thankful, then you will taste it. You will not devour it like an animal. You will taste it, you will find where it is coming from, and you will turn to the one that provides it. This is then worship. Because you are now postponing enjoying it. You're just saying that it is here just for tasting, as we were discussing last week when we discussed 8th word. In the tree, all different sorts of fruits were there, but they were not for eating and devouring. They were just there to taste. You taste it, you understand that this is just an example put in there so that you are becoming a customer to its true resources, which is afterlife. You understand it, you delay your enjoyment of it, but you ask, you become a worshiper. So this is the practical or reasonable, truly reasonable or human way of doing things. Any concluding remarks? We are at time. We started late, but we are ending late anyways. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين